vote for Eva vote because she's way
Oh, Anita, welcome back. How's it feel to be home? You like the traveling? Yeah. Lots of weddings? Well, at one point we had a golden section. You're more experienced in this area than I am.
Is it hot in here? No. Let's see what we got.
oh my goodness, you're back. You're confusing me. You're always over there.
Nobody likes the front row, I guess.
Oh, is Leo away?
Hine Mato
To.
Oma Nayim Sheverachim Gam Yachad Hine Mato Uma Thurman Sheverachim Gam Yachad Hine Mato Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Almost Shabbat Shalom and welcome aboard. Our opening song this evening will be Simon and Garfunkel, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend, You Now Will Come at 5 p.m. Yeah, this is the time of year we change the clocks, and as of last weekend, it's now actually dark when we start Shabbat, so how apt that we need to dispel darkness with a little light. We welcome those distance davening with us, following along by our live stream from our temple website. We hope you made an opportunity ahead of time to download a copy of our satellite Siddur to keep you in orbit, and invite you to follow along and participate on your end in our worship service. Here in-house, we're going to open up to page 124. For this first Friday of the month celebration, Shabbat, we always, as always, begin with what we like to think of as our mission statement, an assertion and affirmation we make to everybody who walks in the door. Middle of page 124. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Now, we need extra verve this evening. Go ahead, ask me why. Because it was a very superficial gash Saturday morning opening up my breakfast. And the moral of that story is have your breakfast open before Shabbos. So I'm out of the running because for some reason it hasn't closed up this week, in which case you have no one but a Juilliard grad to provide for your music. How sad, right? Come on, she is our attribute that we have as the pace car for our joint congregational singing every week. So page 124 in our prayer book was our mission statement, but back up a notch to page 121. Satellite Siddur, you're still right up front. And Linda writes this. Would you honor us, sweet sister? Anyone with the moral courage to sit in the front row in shul gets to have a koved. Come forward, honor us by benching licht.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Let's continue reading together. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadligneh shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, O God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadligneh
Hanikner Shel Shabbat.
Amen. Well, now it's official, so everyone turn to the person closest to you didn't come with, down at the end of the aisle, and say Shabbat Shalom. Now, Carol and I were talking on the way over today, running across the alley. We have this great new car. It's almost a year old now, where you put it on cruise control, you push the button, and it drives itself, and we just sit and having conversations all the way across the state. Anyway, we were talking about the fact that ours is a singing congregation. We have a wonderful cantorial soloist who's been with us forever, who sets the tone, provides the tempo, guides and leads us in remembering old melodies and learning and celebrating some new ones. But this is a singing congregation. But what we don't have, in spite of my pushing for almost 10 years now, because next month, it's December of 2015 was when I first showed up here to say, hey, would it be okay if I ran services with you on Friday night? Nobody gets up and dances in the aisles. Nobody goes into ecstasies of, a little hora up and down the aisle, a little miserlou, dancing up and down and, chain dancing. And I said, well, not even clapping. And Carol said, nobody claps in shul. They think it isn't done. Well, here's the thing. Traditionally it is, except b'shinui, by means of an instrumental change. You can clap like that, but in shul, backhanded. Take a shot at it. Not as boisterous, but it's all of a sudden it's a different experience. Give me two on the left, one on the right. One. Nice tempo. This would be good for Nigun Atik. If you want to go back to the 60s, this is your Mersey beat. So ferry across the Mersey. It's almost also literally any Hasidic melody going. Have you got the tempo? Say yes, Rabbi. Page 142. Then, and Satellite Sidur, you're already in place. Show me what you've got as we follow our cantor who invites us to welcome the Shabbat angels of blessing and peace. Give me a tempo.
Shalom.
Oh, slower tempo.
Malachei Hashait, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch.
You know what was on my head? Since before Boo-Boo time, when we decided to change the music and do something more sedate this evening, I'm still on Yaribon Olam Ve'alamaya. Maybe next week. All right, everyone on track? And now I know you're all thinking, ferry across the Mersey. We did Adon Olam at the end of the service. Adon Olam, Masher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivara. We'll have fun with that one. Charlie's going to get up and sing. All right, let us turn to page 144, Chatzi Kaddish, transition into our evening service.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה
Amen.
ועל מה דברך יראותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלון
ובזמן קריב
ואמרו
אמן. יהי שמי רבם מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה.
יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשו בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
Page 146, we rise for the call to worship.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Even as we rise out of respect when the judge enters a courtroom or when the king enters his throne room to hold court, so can we resume our seats as we turn the page and prepare for the recitation of the Shema. At the bottom of 148 and at the bottom of 150 are two sequential pages. There is a chatima, a signature, a sign-off the cantor is going to bring us back together for. But in the interim, I ask everyone to turn inward and spend the moment of personal devotion looking at any of the readings in Hebrew or English here on page 148, 149, that speaks of God's unknowability as the transcendent creator of the universe. Followed by her doing the chatima with us, by our sharing inside ourselves on 150, 151, the corresponding other side of the coin, the other preparation for the Shema that speaks of God's immanence as our covenant partner. Even as Moses Maimonides, the great medieval philosopher, teaches that God's alone has the capability of being everywhere and nowhere at once. Everywhere, leaving us bereft, and fully present with us always.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevon Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. The Shema sentence we do loudly, coming right from the Torah.
the Baruch Shem softer because it does not appear in the Torah, and back to full voice with Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Geulah, page 157. Emet ve'emunah kol zot, let us read together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. That there is a better place, a promised land. That the winding way to that promise lands the wilderness. And that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 mi khamoch ba'elim Adonai mi khamoch neda b'kodesh nora tehilot osefele nora tehilot osefele מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה זה אלי ענו ואמרו זה אלי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la.
After the energy of the Debbie Friedman melody for the Song of the Sea, after the drama of the song itself, the serenity of a bedtime prayer, 160. Hashkiveinu Ran Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך והושיענו למען שמך והגן בעדנו. Let's read together. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us our enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. God, are coming and going to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Baruch atah Adonai, Haborei Sukkot, Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Haborei Sukkot, Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo ve'al Yerushalayim shalom ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, Haborei Sukkot, Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Yismechu v'malachutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei onei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei onei Shabbat. Mekadeshi, mekadeshi shvi Shabbat. Kulam yisbeu, v'yitangu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei onei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei onei Shabbat. V'hashmi ratzita bo Ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat Chemdad yamim Oto karata Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei onei Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei onei Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh, lema'aseh b'reshit Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh, lema'aseh b'reshit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei onei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei onei Shabbat.
Now, on the one hand, tefillah, the core of our worship service, begins on page 164. But On the other hand, this is, as advertised, the first Shabbat of the month, our celebration Shabbat. So this is an occasion when we make occasion to honor friends and members of our temple family who celebrate birthdays and anniversaries in this newly arrived month of November, including Mitch and Bob, modestly sitting in the back row. Anniversary this last Wednesday the 5th. Go guys, Kenya to boom, many, many happy returns. And we also have Arnold and Jane Barron, Paul and Jackie Zwillenberg, Steve and Carol Roberts, and Stacy Betsy Berner coming up subsequently this month. Also on the birthday front, Rochelle Berman, Jean Siegel, Sue Baum, turned 94 and still going strong. God love her. Arnold Barron, Bob Jers, got a anniversary partner for a birthday present. Good planning. Dahlia Zuckerman, Barbara Silver, Don Schwartz, Aaron Cantor, Harry Jacobson, coming up on the 19th, Larry Burnett, and Mike Suffian. For all of whom alike, and in fact, we'll make the two of you guys the antennas, stand and receive the birthday blessings and anniversary blessings for everyone in our community. As the Cantor broadcasts, we second the motion, and we send it out to everyone in need of it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Amen.
Kol Achai. Don't sit down. Everyone notice that Mitch and Bob are standing? Let's join them as we all rise to the occasion. Page 164. Before we step apart, however virtually, let us start by proclaiming together the words of the psalmist. Adonai svatai tiftach ufi yagid tilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Shalom b'maramah, u'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen, oseh shalom b'maramah, Yaseh shalom aleinu, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמרו amen.
And having come back together in song, no one clapping, but at least we had the tambourine. We need to focus our shared attention on those in need of healing. For members of our congregation, for whom our prayers have been asked, for Leah Jacobson, Joan Thompson, Bert Posner, Roberta Schwartz, Jane Barron, Joanne Blau, Shirley Posner, Larry Satcher, Beth Pavlov, Steve Roberts, Herb Wallach, Alan Zuckerman, Leo Wertheim, and for kinfolk and neighbors of our congregants, for whom our prayers have been asked as well. For Robert D'Onofrio, John Vernon, Julie Fitzgerald, Susan Donahue, Margaret Gallivan, Marianne Mulligan, Linda Gagnon, Christy Raymond, Brandon Ben Sharon, Teddy Emerson, Rosa Footlick, Barbara Kretschmer, Mary Finisand, Pete Carochi, Henry Berner, Paula McIver, Sandy Footlick, Karen DeSessa, Jim McDonald, Alba McDonald, Marjorie Sarmiento, Bernie and Barbara Friedrich, Nan Needleman, Rick Wilk, Elaine Veneman, Meyer Gutmann, Ben Chayavav, Heilgel, and Paul Pfeiffer, and those whose names we call out and add to our prayer list. Anyone, please? Leo Worth on the list. Chris Martin. Joachim Benya. Thank you. Getting back. Charlie again. Bill, sit down. That's Rosenberg. The men and women of our armed forces injured in the line of duty, recuperating around the world, and the men and women of Tzahal, the Israel Defense Forces, continuing to secure the borders and raise an umbrella protection over the land of our people. For all injured in body and spirit, we share together this prayer for healing. Misha Berach, Abnotenu, Avraham, Sarah, Yitzchak, Vrivka, Yaakov, Rachel, Velea, Uyavarech, Virapet, Elu, Chavorenu, Hacholim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yimal Erchamim, Liachlimam, Laptaham, Nachzikam, Lechaviotam, Vishlach, Lehem Mehera, Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, Hashta v'Agla v'Nomar. Amen. May the one who blessed our forebears bless those of the household of Israel, of those of this community, and those precious to us, who on this celebration, Shabbat, this first Shabbat of the month, are in need of so many different kinds of healing. May the one who is known as Harachaman, the compassionate one, show compassion by speedily restoring to them all alike a complete and perfect healing of both body and soul, and let us say, Amen. Our designated drinker tonight. Mitch, I think you were already warming up in the bullpen up here before. Kiddush, you'll find Satellite Siddur, middle of page 10, Kiddush for the eve of Shabbat evening, and those in-house, the big book, page 123. And while you come up to the mic, I'm going to get a transfusion from the cantor.
Go.
I'm her designated drinker.
Someone has to be.
Tuesday was a good day.
The seventh day is consecrated to the eternal God. On Shabbat, eternal sign of creation, we remember that we are created in the divine image. We therefore raise the cup in thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'ma'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'i kodesh zecher l'tzion Mitzrayim ki banu b'chata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'b'ratzon Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
And you handle that so well. How'd you like to slice up some challah too? Don't worry, we have cute assistants waiting in the wings to distribute for you.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. Hava nagila, hava nagila, hava nagila v'nismecha. Hava nagila, hava nagila, hava nagila v'nismecha.
See, it works with everything.
Hava niranana, hava niranana, hava niranana v'nismecha. Hava niranana, hava niranana, hava niranana v'nismecha. Urachim, urachim b'lev sameach, urachim b'lev sameach, urachim b'lev sameach, urachim b'lev sameach, urachim, urachim b'lev sameach.
I came back from summer vacation to find we were doing Hava Nagila in the house, and still nobody's dancing the hora. I'm working hard to build a charismatic shul. We want to have some Yiddish or holy rollers. All right, I see. Well, actually, when Carol and I were engaged, our family's synagogue, during the Oneg Shabbat, the rabbi had an Israeli folk dance teacher come in, and the two of us were doing Zemer Atik and all kinds of exciting things. Yesh Lanu Taish, kiddie dances, and I used to dance a mean Debka Deluna when I was young, a big Arab dance with the Debka Deluna, with the boots kicking and everything. It was very exciting. I have the dilemma as the rabbi of the congregation. I'm here for 3 hours a week. It's the congregation's congregation. While I'm here, it's my pulpit. And the function is that people expect me to teach Torah, to develop a Jewish moral and historical perspective on the issues of our times. And the problem with doing that is, and especially in these times, that if I fail to comment on compelling things in our times, I'm guilty of an abdication, and I disappoint people that were looking to hear a Jewish moral and historical viewpoint on the issues of our times. And if I do comment on a Jewish moral and historical perspective on the issues of our time, somebody gets angry and says, you're getting political and shooting the fish in a barrel. Well, somewhere along the line, we need to talk about things that are happening. This last spring, one of our congregants asked a very quizzical kind of a question, sort of on the fly, halfway between here and the Oneg. He says, Rabbi, what are your thoughts about what's happening at Columbia? And never amplified whether he meant the country or the university. O or U in the middle. Never quite got that. What exactly was it about Columbia? Presumably, it was the repression of the administration insisting on freedom of speech that, amongst other things, was threatening Jews, and therefore someone out there was threatening to pull their federal funding if they didn't behave themselves and make Jews safe. I want you to know how that backwalashes on us. Always. To give you an idea of just how untrammeled bigotry and Jew hatred is in this country, last spring, when the grocery stores began featuring Coca-Cola with a yellow cap, highlighting the fact that this is specially kosher for Passover. Unlike the usual red cap, it's made not with corn syrup, which Ashkenazic Jews would not eat. It's sweetened with sugar. So suddenly there's this Jewish conspiracy. Why are the Jews so special that we get a special Coke that the rest of us don't get? That's how deep and hostile anti-Semitism runs. Well, frankly, I still don't know the question of which Columbia it was, and if it was the university, let's talk about universities. Frankly, for me and Carol, closer to home, what about UCLA? A blue city in a blue state from which $500 million of federal funding was withheld, ostensibly because they were threatening Jews by letting anti-Semites speak on campus, which kind of defeats the purpose of the university campus as a marketplace of ideas. What intrigued me is that the administration got back to them and said, well, tell you what, you can have your $500 million back in funding, but give us $1 billion in exchange. This is called the art of the deal. Back to Columbia, Professor Mahmoud Mamdani. Intriguing. A professor of government in Columbia's School of Anthropology. When I went to university, most of the guys in undergraduate were in English, history, psychology, or political science. Why is a professor of government in the anthropology department and not the political science department? I don't know, but since I'm not a university dean, I don't have to worry about it. That was one question, is the administrative one. Why the government teacher isn't in poli-sci. My question is, why is the professor lecturing from the pulpit, maintaining the perspective that suicide bombing terrorists are legitimate combatants of a legitimate armed force and entitled to protection under the Geneva Convention? Bigger question, his son is now the mayor of New York, largest Jewish community on earth, more Jews in the 5 boroughs than there are in Tel Aviv. That's a really big question. And oh, has it been an exciting week leading up to and beyond the elections. I'm going to suggest we do something daring for Shabbat. Shabbat means relinquishment. Shabbat means Vayishbot Elohim, God stopped creating. Shabbat means relinquishment and letting go. Let's step back. For starters, you and I aren't New Yorkers. We don't got to live there. We live in the swamps. Let's step farther back and be really objective and ponder the interesting lowercase p political and social realities of our time that prompted so many young adults, 18 to 29, to find intriguing the message of somebody who is an intellectual, a social progressive, who's concerned about social justice and civil rights, speaking to them about being opposed to billionaire oligarchs running our society. I find that kind of appealing myself, and I'm much older than 18 or 29. Let's step back even farther. Be proactive and analytical. The man was just elected and hasn't even started the job yet. Why don't we wait and see if there's a problem before we respond to one? My colleague Jeff Salkin, the widely published religious thinker, he runs for the religious news service a marvelous column called Martini Judaism for those who want to be stirred and shaken. Rabbi Salkin says, commenting on the New York election from a Jewish viewpoint, a reality check that there are no illusions, but neither is anything concrete to lash out at or protest against. He says, we will need to work harder. We, including outside New York, will need to work harder to call out anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, which are now virtually indistinguishable from one another. But I have the biggest question of all. Do we Jews, circling the wagon, closing ranks, going through life on yellow alert with shields up and photon torpedoes armed, do we, as Rachmanim b'nei Rachmanim, remember that was our Yom Kippur message, do we, heirs to a tradition of compassion, of justice, do we have as much investment in the welfare of others? During the COVID pandemic, when there were public demonstrations highlighting the cruelty of institutionalized racism in America, some of the most compassionate Menschy Jews I knew, instead of expressing our historic alignment as partners with the black community in so many social justice things, going back to our having helped establish the NAACP 100 years ago in response to the rise of the new Ku Klux Klan, some of the Menschiest Jews I knew responded to Black Lives Matter by stiffly saying all lives matter, which kind of misses the point. My commute over here on US 41, I go past a sign pointing the way to Alligator Alcatraz. That's honest to God, the name the US government gave it, that's on the signs on the highway. And I go past a billboard that says Alligator Alcatraz, an American shame. And I go past a gift shop that sells souvenir t-shirts for Alligator Alcatraz. No mercy, no escape, promoting it as a wonderful resource to address the problem of all those foreigners that are out to get us, some real Americans. Where do we, Jews, as Rachmanim b'nei Rachmanim, stand in terms of our principles as a society? Martin Niemöller now has a reputation as a mensch ever since he went through a concentration camp and came out in 1946 and wrote, "First they came for the communists and I said nothing because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists and I said nothing because I was not a socialist." I got to tell you, before the war, Pastor Niemöller was an anti-Semitic mumser and very naked about it. Well, here's the consideration. I'm sorry he had to suffer in a concentration camp for daring to suggest that the Nazi government was not treating the church nicely. But I'm glad he came out converted. However, first they came for them, and I said nothing because I was not one of them. What do we Jews think about all the thems outside of ourselves? Last week I made the observation, Goy in Hebrew is just a sociological term meaning an ethnic group, a gentilic, a nation. Only in Yiddish does it mean any of the people outside of ours. So what is our perspective towards the Goyim? I see Jews blithely writing off them, not as human beings who are refugees, but as illegals. They're not even a noun, they're an adjective. Blithely writing them off as illegals because we have credentials. My great-grandpa Gross came over the border legally, we think, from Canada. Fixed his credentials, brought the rest of the family over, and my dad was born here. I have a birth certificate and a passport, so that means we don't have to worry. First they came for them, and I did not care because I was not one of them. I see Jews indifferent to ICE roundups of brown people because we're not that dark a brown. We're not currently the group being rounded up by the brown shirts. But later on in Niemöller's little confessional, which people seem to think is a poem, the next to the last line, then they came for the Jews. A lot of Americans are speaking out over the past year farther. Not because they are lefties or liberals or libtards or snowflakes or Antifa, but people of every political party and every faith are speaking out, challenging our government in a democracy, which is our right to do, because they are compassionate and committed human beings, patriots and people of faith who know how the rest of the poem goes. Our model, as Rachmanim b'nei Rachmanim, is Abraham, Avraham Avinu, who in this week's portion, when God drops by for lunch, come on by tomorrow for Torah study, we're going to have fun with this one. God drops by for lunch and says, the reason I'm in the neighborhood is I'm going down to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham steps up and confronts God, Vayigash. Our regular Torah students remember over the years, this is a magic word. Totally pedestrian, quotidian word. He approached, but Vayigash. Little shepherd boy David, Vayigash, approached Goliath. Shepherd boy, farm boy Shaul, Saul, approaches the old man in the gate only to find out it's the prophet Samuel who anoints him. Vayigash is about a crossroads of destiny. Abraham achieves his spiritual excellence when he steps up to the plate and dares to confront God and defy God to go down and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah when there have to be some decent people down there. Ha'af tispet tzadik im rasha is his challenge to God. Heaven forbid, it's funny when you think about it, Chalila lecha, heaven forbid that you, capital Y, should do such a thing. Will the judge of all the universe not do justly? Our Jewish sages of antiquity praise our patriarch Abraham because unlike his 10 generations back ancestor Noah, when God said, I'm going to wipe out the whole world, but you I'm going to save. And he said, okay, and went and got his tools. But 10 generations later, God tells Abraham, I'm going to do a surgical strike on just that one city. And Abraham faces off and says, over my dead body. And Abraham is faulted by our sages of antiquity because he did not do enough. What if there's 50 righteous people? What if there's 45? What if there's 40? What if there's 30? What if there's 20? He says to God, here's my last offer. What if there's only 10? You know the Hasidic story on Yom Kippur? Moshe the tailor walks up in front of the open ark and he's Ribono Shel Olam, sovereign of the universe. I admit that when that stinking nobleman brought me that gorgeous cloth last week to make him a cloak, I made the seams a little small and kept a piece for myself. But you have done much worse things. You have sent plagues and famines and terrible things that killed off thousands of people. So I tell you what, God, says Moshe the tailor, I'll forgive you if you forgive me. And then he turns and goes back to his seat. The rabbi walks over and gives Moshe the tailor a gentle a gentle slap on the face and says, you had him over the barrel. You could have brought the Mashiach. Our sages have the audacity to criticize Abraham for being Moshe the tailor and not having enough audacity. But what makes him brilliant is that at least he stepped up to the plate. And he did it without self-interest. Because he didn't know anybody in Sodom and Gomorrah. He did it on behalf of strangers he'd never met. Because he set the tone for all of Jewish history by his conviction that there could be no holiness in a world where there is not also love, compassion, and justice. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Greetings from our Board of Directors and a few announcements. I welcome visitors worshiping with us tonight and invite you to stay on hand for the Oneg Shabbat following services. Tonight's Oneg was coordinated by Mitch Braun, Bob Jarrett, Sandra Heckler, Adele Oppenheim, Mary Pinto, Robin Singer, Beth Weinberg, and Lynn Wilk. Our lovely flowers and Oneg are sponsored by Mitch Braun and Bob Jarrett in honor of their 10th anniversary. Congratulations again. And Bob's 70th birthday. Congratulations to Bob. Current details of everything going on in congregational life can be found on our website, in our monthly newsletter, The Messenger, and in the semi-weekly email notifications we send out to membership. But tonight, I'll remind everyone, with the ongoing government shutdown, the distribution of food stamps has been disrupted. All religious organizations are doing our best to help meet the needs. Please bring food donations for the next few weeks leading up to Thanksgiving so we can play our part in helping those in need. The bylaws packet were mailed out last week, actually several weeks ago. Please review and send in your voting card ASAP. Our bingo season is Monday at 5 p.m. The film festival flyer is available. Tickets to purchase will be available soon. The concert series is available for purchase at jcmimusic.com. The Chess Club meets every Thursday from 9:30 to 12 p.m. Please contact Irv Pavlov. JCMI's Thursday Pony Canasta is canceled until all Bubby's baking is over. The Women's Book Club first meet will be Tuesday, November 18th at 11 a.m. Flyers can be found around the building and online. The office is selling memorial yard-site candles for when you have a need. Do not forget to bring in food for the community for those less fortunate when you come on Fridays, or leave a donation in the tzedakah box. And now, as we move to the conclusion of tonight's service, I invite to the beam our final honorees, Beth and Frank. Let us please reopen our prayer books to page 586 and rise together for Elena.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our Kaddish prayer on page 598 is a tribute on this Shabbat to Barry Goldberg, whose family observes the month of Shloshim, And to these the anniversaries of whose deaths were observed during the week now ending. Lillian Bernikoff, Ann E. Doxer, Sadie Rose Enton, Bernard Friedman, Jack Glass, Bessie Goldstein, Lillian Sachs Haber, Ginny Germanic, William P. Katz, Barbara P. Katz, Peter Klein, Myra Manoff, Nina Mendelsohn, Mark Migden, Sandra Betten Missel, Richard Dick Bolinsky, Milton Paul Jack Pavlo, Dorothy Rosenberg, Ruth Rovner, Dr. Robert Soloway, Martin Spiegel, John Spiegel, Marche Stern, Alexandra Weissman, David Wertheim, Eileen Wolf. Anyone have Ave Luther Yahrzeit in addition? Zichronam Livracha, may remembering them be always a blessing. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich Malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agala v'yizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mavorach L'olam Olmei Olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitravam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithala l'shmei Kedusha Barichu. V'kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'anama v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shema Rabba min Shemaya, v'chaim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Aseh shalom bimramav, uya aseh shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. May the Maker of peace on high make peace for us, for all Israel, and for those who mourn, and let us say, Amen. And we close this evening on page 625, Satellite Siddur, page 12, Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa V'chefzo kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra V'acharei, Kichlot HaKol. Levando yimloch nora, v'hu haya, v'hu hove, v'hu yiyeh, b'tif'ara, v'hu echad, ve'en sheni, lehamshir lo, lehachbira, b'li reshit, בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי בעת סערה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא בידו אבקיד רוחי בעת אישן ואירה ועם רוחי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא אירה.
Everyone smile at the person back row, you're exempt. Behind you and say Shabbat Shalom. And you as well at home. We'll see you later this month.